The first thing Bueling heard when she entered the mansion was not a greeting, but a woman yelling, "Useless old man. Just die already." Bueling stood at the grand gate of the Han mansion, holding her small suitcase tightly. Her heart beat faster as she looked up at the tall, modern building surrounded by trees and cold silence. The agency had told her this would be a private caregiving job. Quiet. High-paying. Important. But no one mentioned that her new home would feel like a prison. The gate opened slowly, and a young Korean guard motioned for her to enter without a smile. She walked past the shiny cars parked like statues, past the water fountain that no longer danced, and up the stairs to the main door. Inside, the air smelled of expensive perfume and cold marble. Everything sparkled, but it didn't feel alive. Not until a loud voice shattered the silence. "Useless old man. Just die already. What are you even holding on to?" Bueling froze. She turned her head slightly and saw a tall woman in heels yelling at someone lying quietly on a luxury hospital bed near the window. The man didn't move. Not even a blink. That was her new patient. Before she could speak, the woman turned to her. "You must be the new African girl," she said, looking her up and down like she was dirt. "Good. He needs a babysitter. I'm done wasting my time." Without waiting for a reply, the woman walked away, her heels echoing through the house like gunshots. Bueling clenched her jaw and swallowed the lump in her throat. She had worked with difficult patients before, but never like this. She walked slowly to the old man's side. He looked to be in his late 60s, with a strong face, wrinkled from time and pain. His eyes were closed, mouth slightly open, and his hands rested on a soft white blanket. Machines beeped softly around him, though none seemed urgent. "Good morning, sir," Bueling said gently, placing her bag down. "My name is Bueling. I'll be taking care of you from now on." No response. She wasn't surprised. The agency had mentioned that he was paralyzed, unable to move or speak after a stroke. But still, something about him felt off. His face didn't look tired like someone who had given up. It looked alert, like someone listening. The first few days were not easy. No one helped her. The wife, Mrs. Han, never greeted her again. The two sons didn't even live there. The house was always quiet. Bueling cooked her own food, cleaned her own space, and spent every day by the billionaire's side. She bathed him, dressed him, massaged his stiff arms and legs, even played soft music to help him rest. But the part that made her heart ache the most, was how lonely he looked. So she began talking to him. Not just, "Are you hungry?" or "Do you want the window open?" She talked about Africa. About her village, her brothers, her dreams. She read him stories from her childhood, poems from her notebook, and even told him about the mango tree she used to climb when she was a girl. She started calling him Baba, sometimes, like a father. And though he never answered, she sometimes saw the corner of his lip twitch. Just a little. Like a secret smile. One evening, after she fed him his soup, she wiped his mouth gently and said, "You know, Baba, your house is beautiful. But your heart must be tired. It's not easy to be surrounded by people who act like you don't matter." She didn't expect anything. But for the first time, his finger moved. It was so quick she thought she imagined it. She leaned closer. "Did you just?" But nothing happened again. She waited. The machines beeped quietly. She reached into her bag and pulled out a book. "Okay then, story time." And she read to him as the sun set. But deep inside the man's mind, he was wide awake. Mr. Han had been pretending. He had made a private deal with a trusted doctor to fake his illness. He wanted to see who truly cared for him when he had nothing to give. Not his billions. Not his attention. Not even his voice. His wife failed. His sons failed. His own blood had failed. But the African woman with soft hands and a warm heart. She passed the test he didn't even think anyone could pass. His eyes opened the moment Bueling left the room. For the first time in weeks, he smiled. Bueling had been working at the Han mansion for 3 weeks now. Each day was the same, quiet, cold, and lonely. But inside the master bedroom, things were slowly changing. Mr. Han, the billionaire who was supposed to be paralyzed and unresponsive, was secretly recovering. He was never sick. He had paid the hospital and his personal doctor to spread the lie. To pretend he had suffered a stroke. To make the world think he was weak. Helpless. He wanted to see who loved him when he had nothing left to offer. And now, he had seen enough. His wife, Su-jin, spent most days at luxury spas or traveling with her friends. She came home only to insult him. "I wasted my youth on you," she whispered one evening while thinking he was asleep. "Now you're just a vegetable." His sons, Min-jae and Hyun, cared even less. They rarely called. And when they visited once, they spent the entire time arguing about which car they would inherit first. But then came Bueling. A woman with no diamonds, no famous surname, no power in Korea. Just clean hands, a kind voice, and a heart as wide as the sky. Mr. Han often stayed still even when he wanted to respond. It was part of the test. But Bueling's words made it harder to pretend. "Today I made okra soup," she said cheerfully one afternoon, feeding him spoon by spoon. "It's my favorite. You want to know why? Because my late mother used to say, if you ever want a man to stay, cook him okra. It sticks." She giggled softly at her own joke. He wanted to laugh so badly. She wiped the side of his mouth gently, humming as she worked. She was so gentle. Like a daughter. Like someone who actually saw him, not his money or his name, but him. One night, the power went off after a small thunderstorm. The emergency lights lit the hallways in red. The housekeepers had already left. The wife and sons were away, again. Bueling didn't panic. She simply lit a candle, placed it beside his bed, and sat near him. "Don't worry, Baba," she whispered. "I'm here." And she began to sing. It wasn't a perfect voice, but it was full of comfort. An old lullaby from her homeland. The kind of song that wrapped around your heart and squeezed out every tear you didn't know you were holding. Mr. Han's eyes stung. She wasn't just a caregiver. She was healing him. The next morning, as the sun peeked through the curtains, Mr. Han did something bold. Bueling was standing near the bookshelf, searching for one of the African poetry books she usually read aloud to him. Her back was turned. Quiet jazz music played softly from her phone. And then, he slowly turned his head. Just a little. Then back again. She didn't see it. But he knew. He was ready. The pretending had gone on long enough. He had made up his mind. That afternoon, his doctor arrived for a secret appointment. Not the hospital team his family knew, but the private one, the only person who knew the truth. Dr. Seo, a kind-faced man in his 50s, bowed slightly and closed the door behind him. "You're ready, sir." Mr. Han nodded. His muscles were stiff, but alive. He had been slowly recovering for months in silence. "I want to end this," Mr. Han said in a deep, tired voice. "It's time my family sees who I really am." Dr. Seo sighed. "And what about the girl?" Mr. Han smiled weakly. "She's not just a girl. She's an angel." Later that evening, as Bueling was folding his blanket and adjusting the pillows, Mr. Han watched her more openly now. "Bueling," he said softly. She froze. Her eyes widened. Slowly, she turned. "Sir." He was looking at her. And smiling. Bueling dropped the blanket. Her lips trembled. "You can talk." Mr. Han nodded. "And I can move. I was never paralyzed. It was all a test." Her heart pounded. A test?" He nodded again. "To see who really cared." "My wife?" My sons. They failed. But you. She took a step back, shocked. Why me? He looked at her with eyes full of something she didn't recognize yet. Maybe gratitude. Maybe something deeper. Because you saw me when I was invisible. Why are we here? His wife asked, rolling her eyes. The doctor replied, Mr. Han has something to say. The wife laughed. He can't even talk. But then, he stood up. The clouds over Seoul that morning were thick and gray, as though the sky itself knew that something life-changing was about to happen in Han Mansion. Mr. Han had waited long enough. He had seen his wife come and go, never once stopping to ask if he needed anything. He had listened silently as she insulted him in whispers, thinking he was unconscious. He had watched his sons fight over his properties like vultures fighting over a carcass, before he even died. But through it all, Billionaire remained a beam of sunlight in a house full of shadows. She wiped his face with love. She whispered prayers before feeding him. She even kissed his hand once when she thought he was in deep sleep. That kiss had broken something inside him. He could no longer be silent. Call them, Mr. Han told Dr. Seo that morning. All of them. I want my entire family in this house tonight. No excuses. The doctor hesitated. Are you sure, sir? Once you reveal this, everything changes. I know, Mr. Han replied, buttoning up his tailored black suit. Let it. That evening, the Han mansion was glowing with artificial light and fake concern. Mrs. Han arrived first, late as usual, her perfume entering the room before she did. Dressed in a tight red designer suit, she walked in with her usual arrogance and zero warmth. She looked at Dr. Seo and rolled her eyes. If this is another update about my husband's health, I have a dinner party in an hour, so let's make it quick. Min Jae entered next, on the phone, barking orders to one of his failed managers. Just shut it down. I don't care about the bar's license. He hung up, adjusted his gold watch, and frowned. What's going on? Is Appa finally dead? Then came Hyun, looking sleepy and hungover. You better not have dragged me here for something stupid, he muttered, sipping iced coffee. I've got a Twitch stream at 9. They all gathered in the spacious living room, barely acknowledging each other, more interested in the inheritance than the reason they'd been summoned. Dr. Seo cleared his throat. Mr. Han has something to say. Mrs. Han chuckled without humor. He's mute, remember? The doctor didn't answer. He simply looked toward the double doors. And slowly, they opened. At first, the family only saw a shadow. Then the figure stepped forward. Mr. Han. Walking. Alive. Strong. His cane tapped the floor softly as he entered, dressed in a crisp black suit, his face calm but unreadable. For a moment, no one breathed. Then. What the? Min Jae dropped his phone. Appa. Hyun stammered. Mrs. Han stood up abruptly. What kind of joke is this? Mr. Han looked at her. The kind that exposes the truth. For several seconds, the room stayed in shocked silence. Then, with a steady voice, Mr. Han began to speak. You're all here because I wanted to see your true faces. And I have. Mrs. Han folded her arms. So you were pretending? Faking everything? Yes. For months, he replied. I made a deal with my doctor to observe how my own family would treat me when I had nothing to offer. He turned to his sons. Min Jae, do you remember the last thing you said when you visited? Min Jae looked uncomfortable. You said, let's speed things up. We've waited long enough. Like I was a transaction. Not your father. He faced Hyun. And you? You said, if he's brain dead, can we just get the will already? Hyun cleared his throat and looked away. And Soo-jin, Mr. Han's voice dropped. You told your friends at brunch that I was a lifeless lump you were stuck with. You said I was better off gone. And yet, you used my name to book private jets and spa weekends. Mrs. Han raised her chin. You manipulated us. That's emotional abuse. Mr. Han didn't flinch. No. What I did was a test. What you did was your truth. Then he turned toward the hallway. Come in, please. Bueling stepped in. She looked nervous. Shy. Humble. She wore a plain cream blouse and a long blue skirt. No makeup. Just honesty in her eyes. Mrs. Han gasped. Her. You brought her in front of us. She deserves to be here more than any of you, Mr. Han said, proudly. He walked to his desk and opened a black folder. The air grew still as he pulled out a thick document. This is my new will, he announced. Reviewed. Stamped. Finalized. Min Jae lunged forward. Wait, Appa. 50% of my wealth, including company shares, overseas property, and investment accounts, will go to Miss Bueling Mosi. A loud crash. Hyun had dropped his glass. Mrs. Han's mouth was trembling. You're giving half your wealth, to a maid? Mr. Han turned slowly. To a woman who treated me like a human being when my own wife treated me like garbage. When my sons fought over my things like hyenas over bones. He faced Bueling. She didn't see billions. She saw a sick man who needed care. And she gave me peace, warmth, and even songs. Tears rolled down Bueling's cheeks. She whispered, I didn't do it for money. I thought you were alone. He stepped closer. And that is why you deserve it. Mrs. Han screamed. You will regret this. You're destroying our family. Mr. Han finally raised his voice. No. You destroyed it with your greed, your gossip, your absence. Min Jae paced in frustration. We'll fight this in court. You can try, Mr. Han said, signing the last page with a steady hand. But this document is sealed in 5 different countries. Hyun stood up and stormed out. Unbelievable. Mrs. Han followed, slamming the door. Only silence remained. And Bueling. Mr. Han turned to her, his voice soft now. Don't leave me, Bueling. Not now. She wiped her eyes. I don't belong in your world, sir. I'm just. He touched her hand. You're not just anything. You're the only one who made me feel alive again. Bueling was packing her bags when he walked in. Where are you going? I've caused enough drama. I'll find work elsewhere. Stay. I didn't just give you my money. I gave you my heart. For the first time since she arrived in Korea, Bueling felt like she didn't belong. She had gone to Han Mansion simply to care for an old, paralyzed man, a stranger in a lonely house. But now, she was the talk of the entire city. Headlines were flying everywhere. Black caregiver inherits half of Korean billionaire's empire. Family betrayed, but love wins, Bueling Mosi breaks the internet. Real-life K-drama, billionaire faked illness, gave his heart to African angel. It was too much. Reporters camped outside the mansion. Strangers sent both hate and admiration. The wife filed legal threats. The sons went on social media, pretending to be victims. The noise was unbearable. So Bueling packed. She folded her long skirts, wrapped her poetry book, and placed everything gently into the same brown suitcase she had carried when she arrived. I came with peace, she whispered to herself. And I'll leave with peace. But just as she zipped the bag, the door creaked open. Mr. Han stood in the doorway, holding a small bouquet of white peonies, her favorite, which she had once mentioned in passing. I was afraid you'd try to disappear, he said gently. Bueling turned away quickly, wiping her cheek. You shouldn't be seen with me. I've caused enough trouble. He walked slowly toward her, his cane tapping the floor softly. You didn't cause trouble. You exposed the truth. She shook her head. Your family hates me. I didn't mean to come between you. They were never a family, he said, his voice deeper now. Just people I gave everything to, who gave me nothing in return. She looked up, tears clinging to her lashes. You gave me everything. But I didn't ask for it. I didn't want to be your charity case. Mr. Han's expression shifted, almost wounded. Do you think that's what this is? A thank you gift? I don't know what to think anymore, she whispered. You're a billionaire. I'm just. Don't say it, he interrupted. Don't you dare say you're just a caregiver. He placed the flowers down and took her hand, warm, soft, trembling. Bueling, you healed me. You didn't just feed me soup. You fed my soul. I felt invisible in my own house, in my own skin, until you saw me. She stared at him, speechless. I would have died in silence if not for you, he continued. You didn't just care for my body. You cared for my heart. A long silence stretched between them. Then she whispered, why me? Because no one else stayed, he said. You stayed, even when you had every reason to leave. That night, they sat by the indoor fireplace. No cameras. No noise. No gold or luxury. Just two people, worlds apart in background, yet deeply connected. Mr. Han poured her ginger tea and asked her to read a poem. She chose one she had written herself. To the man who wore silence like armor. I gave you my song and you hummed back with your eyes. To the heart that forgot how to be touched. I reached, and you didn't pull away. He didn't speak for a while after that. Then he reached into his coat pocket and brought out a small velvet box. Her heart jumped. But it wasn't a ring. It was a key. This opens a small property in Jeju Island, he said. Away from everything. No reporters. No noise. Just peace. She blinked. You want me to live there? I want us to live there. Together. Her breath caught in her throat. I know you didn't come here for love, he continued. And I never thought I would fall for anyone again. But I don't want to pretend anymore. Not about my illness. Not about my feelings. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Min Jae, the older son. His eyes were red, his hands shaking. I just need 5 minutes, he said. Bueling stood to leave, but Mr. Han stopped her. Stay. Min Jae entered quietly and sat across from his father. I was angry, he said. But deep down, I knew I didn't deserve a single thing you gave me. Mr. Han raised an eyebrow. And? I'm not here for the money, Min Jae said. I'm here because I'm ashamed. You gave us a test, and I failed. She passed. He looked at Bueling. I judged you without knowing you. But thank you, for saving him. There was a pause. Then Mr. Han said, if you want to change, it starts today. No fake apologies. Just truth. Min Jae nodded. It wasn't perfect. But it was a beginning. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. The lawsuit dropped. Mrs. Han left the country quietly, ashamed and bitter. Hyun still stubborn, but quiet now. Mr. Han officially stepped down from the company and made Bueling the co-founder of a new charity hospital for foreign caregivers, naming it Mosi House in her honor. It made headlines again. But this time, people weren't gossiping, they were celebrating. One evening, on the same bench where she once cried alone, Bueling sat beside him again, wearing a soft pink scarf. Do you still want to go to Jeju? She asked. He smiled. Only if you'll dance with me under the stars. She laughed. And as the sun set behind them, Mr. Han reached for her hand, squeezed it softly, and said the words he had been holding for weeks. I didn't just give you my money, Bueling. I gave you my heart. And I hope you'll keep it. She smiled, eyes wet with joy. I already have.
Hello besties, in this story we learned that love doesn't come from blood or wealth, it comes from the soul, and sometimes a stranger's heart can heal what family destroyed. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe and share.